You're watching Global Toronto. This is Global News at Noon.
Big story here on this Friday. It, of course, has been a wild 24 hours in the strike by college faculty. And later today, the Wynne government will make another attempt to end the nearly 5-week walkout. Let's go live to Marianne Domain, who is outside George Brown's downtown campus, where picket lines have actually now come down. Marianne, what's been happening there so far this morning?
Well, Jeff, it is much quieter now that the pickets have come down today, and that is likely the case at other 24 college campuses all across the province where we've been seeing the picketing workers. But now the waiting game begins to find out whether those striking workers will be forced back to class and whether students will be allowed back into the classroom after they've been out for nearly 5 weeks now. We know that this came after 12,000 striking college workers voted against the college's latest offer, causing them to have a loud rally outside of the Ontario Labour Relations Board yesterday downtown. That led to negotiations between both sides resuming, but once a deal wasn't reached by 5 o'clock yesterday, that's when the provincial Liberals stepped in and tried to get back to work legislation rolling. That didn't go through, but the president of OPSEU says they're ready for whatever happens, and if they've got to get back to work, they will, though their fight is not over.
The bargaining team has a lot of empathy for the students, and that is their major concern. So back to work is the least desirable of the outcomes. What would have been better is a bargain collective agreement. The council simply they've not been interested all along.
All right, there's Smokey Thomas with the union side, but Marianne, what about the students? They've been the ones, of course, caught in the middle of all of this. How do they feel about the back to work legislation?
Yeah, 500,000 college students who have had their classes canceled. They've been allowed to come to college campuses to study, but some people say they simply can't even remember what they were studying before this strike even began. They're frustrated. Some are calling for a refund on their tuition. We spoke to a few this morning, and this is what they had to say.
I think a lot of the students are just feeling annoyed at this point, like we don't really feel advocated for, and I think everyone's a little bit too focused on the teachers instead of the students, and so for us it's just really dragged on and we don't even remember what happened in class before this started, so I think a lot of us are just hoping to get back soon.
I support the teachers and I'm excited to get back to school. I'm excited to see them. They're all great. But yeah, I'm ready, and it sucks that they're getting forced back to it, but I'm happy to get back to my studies.
Just finally, Marianne, the legislature is set to sit at 3 o'clock this afternoon. How is all of that supposed to play out?
Well, if it was anything like yesterday, if it is like anything like yesterday, the NDP will try to block it again. In a statement, the NDP said they don't believe in violating workers' rights, and that is referring to forcing them to get back to work. But the provincial Liberals will try again this afternoon. If it's not successful today, they are willing to do a rare weekend sitting in the legislature, which is something we don't often see. Anything to try to get the students back in class and the workers back on the job next week, Jeff.
All right, Marianne Domain, thank you. And to talk more about the politics at play, I'm joined now by Global News anchor and the host of Focus Ontario, Alan Carter. Alan, let's talk about the legislature sitting later this afternoon. The NDP, as Marianne just mentioned, they blocked this legislation yesterday, expected to oppose it again. Do you think that we're going to see college teachers back in the classroom by Monday?
Yeah, well, it's a foregone conclusion because the Liberals have a majority, so they have the numbers. And the PCs also support the legislation. So again, all the numbers are there. What the question is whether or not it goes through the legislature quickly or slowly, and that is up to the NDP. Now, the NDP is in a bit of a tough spot because, of course, from a position that they don't believe that back-to-work legislation should ever be enacted in any case. So they said, well, we're not going to hold it up unnecessarily, but we're going to force the legislature to sit both today, tomorrow, and Sunday to get it passed in time for Monday.
All right, looking ahead, what does this mean for both sides when it comes to eventually solving this? I mean, if they're forced back to work, the teachers here, does that give them, the union, an upper hand when it comes to arbitration?
Well, what happens is now that everything just sort of is frozen and all these issues now go to a binding mediator arbitrator. And in the past, arbitration has been seen to be quite favorable to labor and to union, and that's maybe why you don't hear the kind of anger from Smokey Thomas that you might otherwise being legislated back to work.
This is going to play into the union's hands.
I think that they'll get a better deal possibly from an arbitrator than they would have otherwise.
All right, just finally, what's the political fallout from this protracted strike, or do you think that there is any with the election still fairly far away?
Well, I think a lot of parents of kids that are in school have been angered. The students themselves have been angered. I think we are some distance away from making decisions in terms of, you know, going to the polls in the election. But I think it does entrench some ideas. I think there's going to be some anger at the NDP for stalling this, and I think there's a lot of anger with the Liberals for allowing this to go 5 weeks before stepping in and doing something that a lot of people said you got to do earlier. It's going to happen anyway.
All right, Alan Carter, appreciate the perspective, and we will see you later this afternoon at 5:30, sir.
Thank you.